Okay, so hello everyone that has joined. Welcome and thank you for joining me today. I'm Ken DeSessa from Revelwood, and Revelwood is a Workday Adaptive Planning business partner, so we do Workday Adaptive Planning implementations. A few quick notes as we get going. We should be finished in 45 minutes, been pretty good with that. During that time, as much as I love to hear dogs barking and kids in the background and all that kind of stuff, I have trouble enough keeping my own environment quiet. So for that reason, all attendees are muted. If you have questions, type them into the Q&A section. We'll try and answer them as we go along. But if we don't, we can certainly answer them afterwards. So we are going to move pretty quick today in order to get this done in 45 minutes. So I know that some of you on this call are here out of curiosity or general education. Some are here because you have an initiative in the area. Either way, we certainly would appreciate you taking just 15 minutes with us over the next week or so for a chat. So in the next day or so, myself or one of my colleagues who may have reached out to you will be reaching out with a 15-minute invite maybe. And we hope to get your feedback, hope just to have a conversation with you, what your level of interest is, and if there's anything else that we can help you with. One final thing as we get going, this demo was meant to give you a glimpse into the adaptive planning solution and how it can help you better manage FP&A, but there's lots of capabilities that you're not going to see today, so don't think you're going to see everything today. What I hope to show you is just what I'll call the basics of how you might use the system every day. Workday Adaptive Planning is a publicly traded company, so we have the safe harbor statement. All this means is that we're going to be everything you're going to see today is already in the solution, and I don't think we're going to be talking about anything that's on the pipeline for development. But in case I do mention something, please always make your decision based on what's currently in the project, because future development and future pipelines do change. So adaptive planning is a solution that's really meant for company-wide FP&A and to be a single source of truth. It meets all of the needs of finance, planning, reporting, analytics, allowing you to bring in many sources of data used from many different areas of the business. So keep in mind, it's not just about the general ledger data. It could be data from literally any data source, but it is one place to do everything. The solution has its own, what's called an ETL tool, that stands for extract, transform, and load. It allows data to be pulled from virtually any data source. And since Adaptive is truly a born-in-the-cloud multi-tenant solution, one of the key benefits to this is the idea of each customer being able to take advantage of all the new functionality that's being put into the product. You don't need to do anything to upgrade or to gain access to new functionality that will never impact what you've already done. And since Workday spends about 30% of its revenue on product development, and that's a huge number, you can be sure that there's a lot of new features always come into product to make things better for you. But although we typically talk to finance first, it seems like most of the time, adaptive planning isn't just for finance. It's a solution that can grow with your entire business. For example, although your revenue planning typically involves sales, right, and is done under the FP&A umbrella during forecasting and budgeting, there are a ton more things involved in sales planning, things like territory management, quota and capacity planning. And adaptive planning can actually use for those types of things as well. So it can extend, if you choose to, beyond just finance and planning into other areas of the business to do all kinds of operational modeling. And that's really a huge differentiator for adaptive planning. So adaptive planning is built on this technology called Elastic Hypercube technology. It's patented by Workday. And I'm not going to get into the technology itself. What it means to you as an organization or a company that is supporting, that is looking at buying into this solution, it means that all your information is on one platform and that it has this built-in intelligence to connect data and scale processing. And it's, again, another important differentiator for us, because you're not limited to dimensions. You're not limited to the number of scenarios like, forecast number 1, forecast number 2, etc. You're not limited to the number of reports and dashboards. You're not going to pay for additional storage and all that sorts of things. And a lot of traditional solutions that may be using multi-dimensional databases, and they may be even tying them together in another section with some other sort of database. That might not be true. So I would always, as you're looking at solutions, if you are, ask those questions. Ask how data is connected from one part of the system to the other, say from planning to reporting, because a lot of times there are scripts that need to be written and processes that need to be run in order to make all that data connect. With this technology, everything is automatically connected behind the background. So as soon as you make a change, those changes are reflected and ripple throughout the entire system. A couple of quick highlights as we wrap this PowerPoint up. Adaptive, well, Workday itself, right, very well respected, very well thought of company, Fortune Future 50, Forbes most innovative companies, etc. They hired Phil Mickelson as one of their spokespeople. He's a golfer. If anyone knows, you probably have seen his commercials on the TV if you watch any golf at all. But the Adaptive Planning Solution itself has over 5,600 customers, right? And is really highly rated by many, many third-party type of organizations, such as Gartner and Forrester and Nucleus Research. And it's always around ease of use and customer experience and customer satisfaction and usability. And you know, to grow to 5,600 customers, you've got to be doing something right. And what Adaptive has done right is the fact that they have a 97% customer satisfaction rating. So they keep their customers and they gain customers. You know, if you look at, ask other vendors as you're talking to them, how many customers do you have? What did you have 5 years ago versus today? And why is that? What we find out is that many companies that are out there using other solutions actually stop using them after a certain amount of time, and we pick those customers up. And so they struggle to really grow fast because you're losing, you know, close to as many as you gain. So just, I encourage you to ask those questions of any vendor about, you know, their growth rate and why that is. And I'll really wrap things up here with some of these statistics. I'm not going to read them. You can. They're on the screen. But these are statistics that come from Adaptive Planning customers and are gathered by third-party organizations. It's not just stuff that we make up. And it's always around accelerating cycle time and making finance more strategic to the organization, be able to ask questions and focus on value-added tasks. And lots of customers worldwide across many different industries. You know, it really is an industry agnostic tool, can be accommodated and configured to just about anything that you can think of. Okay, so that's going to end that. Let's go ahead and move right into our demo. There we go. Okay, so you can log into Adaptive through any web browser, phone, tablet, you know, any place you can get to the internet. You can get into your Adaptive Planning instance by just going to adaptiveplanning.com, clicking on the login screen, and you'll come to this, and basically you just enter your user credentials. And when you enter those user credentials, you come to this login screen. This, of course, can be customized to anything you want to be on this splash page, so everyone customizes that a little bit differently. Could be information about your business, links to things, etc. Could be a dashboard. Any way you want to do it, you'll be able to do it. Everything I'm showing you today is available for me to show you because I'm an administrator. Not everyone in your organization is going to be exposed to all the things I show you today, because you might want to limit, obviously, some users' access to different parts of the system. But I'm logged into as an administrator, so I see everything. So most all the work that you're going to do is right here from this particular screen, right? This is where many people start. There's lots of different options. I'm going to run through these now. I'm not going to go into them all today because, like I said, we're limited to 45 minutes. But I'm just going to tell you a little bit about some of them, and then we'll be going into a few of them. So Sheets is where you actually do your planning. It's where you have what might look like templates, right, where people enter data to plan expense accounts or do staff planning or CapEx planning. It's a real important part of the Adaptive Insight system. Assumptions is where you define global parameters used in things like Sheets. So, for example, you may want to define a driver, such as a % increase in salaries that is applied to everyone, right, for the next year. So you have that as a global parameter. You go into here in Assumptions, and you change it in one place, and it filters throughout the system, okay? Reports we're going to be going into. So we're going to be going to Sheets. Reports, we're going to be going into that as well. So I'm not going to even talk about that. You'll see that. And dashboards we're going to go into, so I'm going to skip that for now. Consolidation and process kind of go together. If you have users that you want to give a very guided process to, like a step 1, step 2, step 3 process that they follow, you set that up in this process and workflow section of the system. Consolidation is if you do a true accounting consolidation, like do eliminations, there's a whole consolidation engine. If you need that, you may not. Modeling, modeling formulas, we can create formulas. Modeling is like the back end of the solution. It's really where you do most of your, what I would call back end or administrative type of work, where you create versions such as that forecast 1, forecast 2 type of thing. You define your time strata. You look at levels. This is how your organization is structured and how data is going to roll up. This is obviously just an example. Keep in mind today that everything I'm showing you is just an example. This system will be configured to your particular needs. So that's what you see in the modeling section of the solution, where you bring in your chart of accounts, you can define allocation rules, and everything is really not scary in adaptive planning. It's very straightforward, it's configurable, it's point and click. There is no coding in adaptive planning. Okay, what else do we have here? Administration is basically security, and integration is where you define how you bring in the data from the various systems. We can't get into integration now, but just know that adaptive has been integrated with just about every general ledger system, ERP system out there, but it can be integrated with any other data source as well. It can be an HR system, any type of operational system, anything that has data, we can pretty much get to and get data into the system from it. So don't worry about that right now. For purposes of today, right, we've already brought in, we have actuals data in here already, so we can, for demonstration purposes, show you different things. So we've already done that integration, brought data in, and we're kind of taking it from that point forward. Okay, so in today's demo, I said I'm going to be showing you dashboarding, planning and sheets, and reporting and analytics. These cover the primary business purposes for interacting with adaptive. And I hope what you take away just really how easy it is to use and how it gives you tremendous access to data easily. So the first thing I want to do is dive into dashboards. So I go into dashboards, this is what it looks like. I can create any number of tabs that hold any number of types of dashboards, right? And let me just kind of click through here to give you sort of a feel for what these might look like, these dashboards. And notice as I go across here, these dashboards are not all finance dashboards, revenue and expense dashboards. You can also have things like sales dashboards, which is sales data, units sold, production type of dashboards, depending on your particular needs. So you can mix and match these types of things. You can bring all kinds of data into adaptive planning, okay? So you'll notice here in this dashboard, there's a couple of what I call foundational elements in adaptive. You'll always have this version, right? So you're looking at right now the things that are being forecasted. I could easily look at the working budget data that I have or actuals data that I have, et cetera. So, right now you have looking at a forecast data for this particular time period, and you notice this particular company is actually broken down by data, days that rolls into months, that rolls into quarters, that rolls into year. Honestly, most people are broken down by month, quarter, year. Not many companies do it daily, but if that's your need, daily into weekly, if that's your need, we can certainly accommodate that. Then we have our level structure, so what part of the organization we look at, and then currency. And Adaptive fully supports foreign currencies very easily. Typically what's happening is people are planning in their local currency, and that local currency is being translated as it rolls up to whatever the corporate entity's currency is. But you can do it any number of ways, okay? So as you look at these dashboards, you'll notice there's some things we can do, right? You can scroll across lines and see particular data points. You could easily pop out one of these just to be able to see it if you want. You can change an individual graph if you chose to. There's some options here to look at things differently as well by year, quarter, month. You can download images if you want. But really the power of and you could also do things like a PowerPoint presentation type of thing if you wanted to do it. You could take snapshots and schedule snapshots to be sent out to people. So those are all sort of various options that you can have within the solution. But the real power comes in being able to drill into data, right? So I can go to any point on this, like this bar right here, this revenue, and I can click on it, right? And I can drill down through any of the dimensions I've set up that are appropriate for this particular piece of data, right? And this is really important because I can go from here, from revenue, and I can click on location, and I'm now drilling down, and I can see that United Kingdom, I may want to drill from there into a customer level. And then I want to go from a customer level into a product level. So I can see this very easily and drill very easily into anything I want within. Then I can even go back and say, well, no, I don't want to, I want to go by Great Britain by something else. Maybe I want to go right to product for some reason, right? So there's different ways you can drill down, and it's really the power of Adaptive is our ability to do this kind of data drill down. And I'm going to show you different ways to access and drill into data at different points in time. So it's very powerful. The other thing I want to show you real quick is that the dashboards can actually be combined with actual data that you can enter, like in a forecast or in a budget. So I built something called Budget Entry Dashboard here, right, where I've actually taken different visualizations and combined them with I'll call it tabular data, right? So I can go here, and if I wanted to, and you can make this one person screen, if all a business person needs to do was enter in some planning data for their department, let's say workforce planning data that is, I can come here, and now I could actually change the data, as you can see, to anything I want. And the dashboard would automatically update as I did it. If I change these hours, those sorts of things. And we'll get into data entry when we get into Sheets a little bit more. But I wanted to show you how you can start combining these things and how effective it can be for you. But I thought what would be really interesting to show you, frankly, is to actually show you how easy it is to build a dashboard. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that right now. So all I do is click on New, give it a name. I'm going to say Ken, and hit Save. Okay, and then Edit. All right, now I'm given the canvas for creating a dashboard. So all I have to do is, well, let me go through the side on the left first. What you're seeing here are all the visualizations and things you can bring in to the dashboard. And what this file drawer is all the data. Now, when we use the word accounts, we typically think of accounts in relation to our general ledger accounts, right? But in Adaptive terms, an account is any piece of data. So certainly we have our GL accounts like we're seeing here, right? But we have other types of things as well. We have metrics that we've accumulated. We have custom accounts, which are just other pieces of data that we've either calculated or brought into the system. So there's all the data that you have available in the system shows up here. And to do it, all you would do is drag something onto the screen, give it a little bit of size, and then pick the data that you want to see. Let's make it easy. Everyone understands operating expenses. Okay. Now that's operating expenses for not broken down yet, right? So let's go over to the settings over here, and we can name the chart if we wanted to. Let's name it OpEx, and we can do all kinds of different formatting and stuff. But let's go ahead and break it down. I'm not going to explain exactly what I'm doing because it would take too much time. But essentially, what I'm going to do is break this down so I can see it by location. So now I'm looking at operating expenses across all our locations, and it was that simple. If I wasn't talking to you, I could do that in probably 15 seconds. Let's give you another example, like a KPI chart, like these. Typically, we see these with like metrics, right? So let's go down and pick a metric of some sort. Where did I see those metrics? There they are. Let's just drag on gross margin. Okay, and I'll stop right there. I think you get the idea of how this is done. Now, here's the great part. I click Done. Okay, it's now a published dashboard, and the data is immediately connected, and I can immediately drill into any of that data, just like I showed you as an example before. There's nothing more I had to do to make that happen. And that's one of the most powerful things within adaptive planning, is that ability to instantly see results, instantly calculate data, and just drill through and move throughout the system. All right, so in the interest of keeping moving, I told you it was going to be fast. I appreciate you hanging in there with me. I'm going to go into sheets now. So sheets, as I mentioned before, are where we enter data, right? So right now I'm looking at this sheet. It's just a simple expense sheet by total company. Let's look at it at the departmental level. I'm going to go down to Sales North. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and look at this sheet. Okay, so let me explain what you're seeing here. Color coding is important. Hopefully you can see the colors. Anything that has a gray background is locked for some reason. That means I can't enter it right here. It's connected to something else. It's calculated. It may be connected to a supporting schedule of some sort, that sort of thing. Anything in white is where I can actually enter data, okay? Anything with a green number means that number is an actuals number, okay? So what we're actually seeing here is a forecast, right, that takes us from April through December. So, 3 + 9. So we have our 9-month forecast that we're going to be doing here. Now, I can look at the great thing about it, I can look at this data in any number of ways with just clicking buttons, right? If I'm a user that wants to see this a little bit differently, I'm going to show you a screen that allows me to define what I'm looking at. So as you notice on this screen, right now, the prior year, fiscal 2020, I'm looking at the yearly total. Fiscal 2021, I'm looking at monthly, quarterly, and the yearly total. Let's take the quarterly out of there. So we're just looking at the monthly and the yearly for the current year. And let's look at the prior year from a month perspective, just because I want to be able to go back prior months and see what I did in that prior year, okay? So when I click on that, it's going to reconfigure the sheet, and I didn't have to build that. That just is a function built into Adaptive that allows me to do that. So notice now my quarterly summary is gone. We're just looking at the months, and then now I can look back at all the prior months, okay? And if I need to look back at the actuals to give me an idea of what I need to enter in, I can do that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, that was just an example, so I'm going to go ahead and reset it to what I have as my default view, okay, because I like that default view, which is just months with the fiscal year here. You notice all the months for fiscal year 2020 are gone, with my 21 year and my 22 year plan showing. Okay, so we've got that done. What else can I do here? Let's just show you how to, well, a couple of things. Is if there's a triangle in the upper right-hand corner, that means there's a note in that cell, as you can see here, and it's very easy just to add notes. You just click on it and hit Add Note, and I could type something in, and that note would stay there. Thing about notes is notes carry through with that intersection of data. So for this one right here, it's the intersection of count 6311 for our forecast, Sales North, for April of 2021, right? That's a very specific intersection of data. That carries through to any report that shows that particular data. Will be able to see that note. You don't have to show it, but you'll be able to see that note in that report if you choose to show it, okay? Also, anything with a a triangle down in the bottom right means that there's a formula in that cell. So the formula you'll see for that cell is right up here. Now, these formulas, I don't know how it looks to you right now, but they're actually really easy to use because there's only two things really in this formula that's unique to Adaptive. This word ACCT, which means the account, and this word ASSUM, which means the assumption. So it's in our assumption sheets. The rest is really just words that I chose to describe different pieces of data, so it would be in your nomenclature. So what this is doing, it's taking the account from the personnel sheet of start month, which means a new person starting in that month, and multiplying it by the assumption, new hire sales training in the US. So it's taking dollars for a new hire in the month. And if I were to click on this cell and go into this thing called Cell Explorer or Explore Cell, which is great. Explore Cell gives me data about every single cell in the system and is totally unique to adaptive planning, what I immediately see is, oh, I had one new person in that month, and we're using $180 as the assumption for new hire training. So I can if I just wanted to see that real quick because I saw that number there, I can click on that Explore cell and I can find that out real quick. Now, entering data is really easy. I could simply, go ahead and enter data in like this. I could take something like this and use a copy forward, copy to end, and I'm going to save that. I'm going to save that for a reason. I'll show you in a second. And so there's a lot of different options, and you can do, your typical Excel formulas, Control-C, Control-V, cut and paste type of stuff. So here's all the different things that you can do. Very easy to enter data in. But here's some neat things that I can also do. If I have this in and I know that what I want for the total year, I could actually enter the total year as well. So let's make this. Now notice first that I put $150 in each one of these cells, right? So I'm going to enter $20,000. So I want my total for the year to be $20,000. And I'm going to spread that back across my open months proportionally. Now I have a number of different options and I can do custom options. Purposes of the demonstration, let's just do it proportionally. Now you notice what it did was it took $20,000, it subtracted the actuals that we already had, which was about what, $6,300, and put the remaining across the open months proportionally to what was already in there. So that's why you would expect all those numbers to be the same, right? So I'm going to save that as well. And so it's really, really simple to enter data into adaptive planning. You can create a very simple looking sheet if you needed to for your business users. They would only see the data that they need to see and all that sort of stuff. So you don't have to worry about actually them seeing data that they're not allowed to see. Now, there's a couple of other things. I wanted to talk about that Explore cell a little bit differently here because there's another feature of it I want to show you. If I click on that same Explore cell, now that I've changed that data, you can see the View Audit Trail. So every change I make is being loaded into the audit trail. So in that particular cell, what you're going to see when I click the audit trail on that particular cell is that we started out with none. It went to 150. Then it went from 150 to $1,522.22. And here are the dates and times that it did it. This is actually Pacific time. And here's the user that did it, right? So you always have that audit trail. And there's actually a very robust audit trail reporting feature within the system. We won't get into it today, that you can do a lot more than just look at a single cell. You can run reports on users and all sorts of things to allow you to make sure you understand what's being changed into the system. Okay, so someone asked a question about, I mentioned earlier about these gray cells coming from, they're locked, right? The data's coming from somewhere else, and I mentioned a supporting schedule. Those are the words I used. So what does that mean exactly? So let's go to salaries and wages. And if I click on that Explore cell again, I say, where is that number coming from? What I see is it's coming from this account called Personnel Salary that is found on this workforce planning sheet. And by the way, these are all the people that are being rolled up into that specific number. But let me go, this is the supporting schedule in this case. It's called workforce planning. Everyone has a workforce planning sheet, and I can get to that workforce planning sheet from my sheet option over here if I wanted to, which I showed the menu, or I can just get it through that Cell Explorer, whichever one you want. Now this particular sheet looks different than the other sheet. It's actually what's called a modeled sheet, because what I can do is I'm collecting a bunch of records with characteristics about that record. In this case, people, their titles, their residence for tax. And you notice here, I can have things like drop down, right? I can have free form text in here. I can have dates and pick dates and do date calculations. So I can do all kinds of different calculations on these different lines, however I need to do it for my particular planning and the way you do it. Now we're showing things like benefits and pensions and raise dates and raise percentages and all that sort of stuff being shown here. Yours may be very simple. You might just have names and salaries and maybe one big swag for benefits, or you may do it at a more detailed level. This sheet would be configured to represent your business. And it's called a model sheet. So the bottom line is that the accumulation of all these hires for Sales North, remember, in April, that number, I'm going to leave without saving any changes, is this $43,000 number. And the key thing to remember is you can have any number of these supporting schedules in different parts of the system. Maybe you have a lot going on in marketing, for example. Is marketing even in here? I think it is. But maybe you have something in marketing that you want to do a very detailed supporting schedule for, where you put in, I don't know, events and dinners and marketing, maybe website expenses and things like that. You can have a separate sheet that you can plan and accumulate all that data, and then that rolls into a particular account. And so if you think of that concept of those sheets rolling into accounts, that's a good way to think about it. Or you could just, like we did with that maintenance account that we've been working with a little bit here, we just entered the, or we didn't do it in maintenance, we did it in training, I'm sorry. We just can enter it right into the cell without having to change anything, okay? So that's some of the concepts there that I wanted to show you. I'm keeping my eye on the clock here. Anything else I want to show you in here? There is one other type of sheet I'm going to show you real quick. It's called a cube sheet. And the different sheets are just used based on what you want to accomplish. This cube sheet actually, if you look at it a little more, you know, has a bunch of dimensions across it. This one happens to be planning revenue in lots of different ways. But you can see that I've got my accounts by time for planning my revenue. I could actually take this and relocate it. Ooh, where am I doing that? Why isn't it? There we go. Oh, did that one wrong, didn't I? Shouldn't have gone into the sheet without knowing where to go. Let me go into product revenue again. Oh, give me a second. Sorry about that, folks. Well, I'm not going to do it because I don't exactly know how to use one of these sheets. I don't use them very often, but it's a model sheet. It allows you to look at things dimensionally. I apologize for that, by the way. Right now, I'm looking at this across years, but I can look at this by customer. I can look at all these details by product. There's different ways to rotate this sheet. Think about pivot tables in your Excel spreadsheets, and it's very similar to that. Okay. The next thing I want to show you are reports. Okay, so this is what a standard, what we call web-based or HTML report looks like within the system. You know, typical has drop-downs, right, where I can pick what I want to look at. I can pick time, and you'll be able to define what you want to see on these reports. Notice here I've got my notes. I mentioned those notes from the cells. Showing down at the bottom as a footnote. I can show them in other ways or hide them all together. But here's a great thing, and you can do a lot of formatting to show red things that are bad and green things that are good, that type of thing. But notice that I can really use one report to do many different things. So right now I'm looking at actuals and working budget. If I click on this, I can change what I'm looking at. Right? I don't have to just look at actuals and working budget and create another report to look at, you know, forecast versus working budget or something like that. I can just switch right there, and it all happens in one report. I can also be looking at this report, and I can see something that's gone wrong like this. It's in red. Obviously, my travel and entertainment is way out of whack, and I might say, well, I want to investigate. Why is that happening? Right? So I might go over to here and say, well, instead of looking at that, all these different accounts, let me look at that one account by, let's do it by level. Oh, I'm sorry, level. Okay, so what I've done is I've now flipped this exact report. I'm looking at that one account, 6,400 travel and entertainment, but I'm looking at it by across my levels of my organization. Right, so I've just flipped that exact same report very quickly. Now, as I look down this, I can, you know, clearly see that my problem is with this one level sales north. So from here, I may want to investigate, well, what the heck is going on? Why did they exceed what their budget was? So I may go into that explore cell again. I may say, well, what exactly did I expect to see? And in this case, last year, we had all these these particular things that made up my airfare. And so we could see that the $13,000 was just made up of airfare, hotel, meals, and some mileage. So, what the heck could have happened that we actually got this $2,600 number? And so again, I can go into Explore Cell, and I can look at this, and I can say, well, this particular account is really what went wrong. What the heck happened? So I can click on that one account, and I can then go into this drill into transactions. So I can see the details that make up that one particular account or item that Sales North entered. And when I drill into those transactions, what I see is that I've got a $2,600 lunch that was put in as a $2.6 million lunch. Now, this was an example for our demo, right? So I can show you what it is. The point being is you can drill into the transactions from your general ledger and see what those transactions are to figure things out. Someone just obviously entered this wrong. So we now can go back to accounting and obviously show people that, hey, this is what happened and we need to get it fixed. All right, so those are reports, really easy to use. I actually want to show you how to create a report. So to create a report, I'm just going to click New Report and Matrix. Don't worry about what Matrix means right now. And again, I'm presented with the canvas for building my report. So this is simply a drag and drop. I may want to take my accounts again, and let's put our operating expenses on the row. I want to maybe combine that with a metric, right? I may want to add some sort of space within there if I can, right there. Right. I also want to maybe add net income. All right, so that's enough on the row. Let's go ahead and select a version now. So we go back to elements, and let's pick what we want to go across our columns. So let's go ahead and do a, let's look at a working budget versus a forecast. How's that sound? Okay. And then let's go ahead and put in some calculations. Now let's just do some basic stuff here. We can just do an easy subtraction. Let's rename that var dollar, and we'll make them negative, red if they're negative. And let's do we'll also put on there a var percent. Show that as a percent. Okay. Now let's go ahead and also put in some parameters up top, like we've seen on a lot of the screens. Let's put in time. Yeah, I did that. I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and put in, 2021. Let's go ahead and also put in our level structure. And instead of just making that filter, let's also make our level structure something that we can select, right? So this is just filtered by this. This is a selection that you as a, end user will be able to select on. All right, if we hit save there, well, let me give it a run first before I save it. That's what I meant to do anyway. Let me run it. Okay, so there's our quick report. It doesn't look like much, quite frankly, but we didn't do much. And now I can drill, open up these accounts as much as I want. And here's the great thing again, is in any note, any point, I can click on any one of these numbers and drill in and see things about that particular number. And I can, just like I did before, I can flip this by any type of dimension that I want and see it in a lot of different ways. So that's really an easy way to do reports, quick and simple. All right, we've got 4 minutes according to my clock, and I wanted to show you one last thing. Now, there is another reporting method in Adaptive. You probably have what I would call board books or or presentations and reports that you show your senior management, maybe, things like that. So Adaptive has something called Office Connect. And what it does, it connects Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, and Word to the data in Adaptive Planning. So you can bring that data into those platforms and use that data any way you want. So I'm going to show you an Excel today sheet, but it works the same within Word and PowerPoint as well. So as you can see, I'm in Excel now, and I've got an Office Connect add-in. And then when I click on Link Cells, you'll see that all the things that just highlighted, I'll click that on and off, is data that is coming from the Adaptive Planning system. Now you notice here in cells like this, I just have regular Excel formulas, right? So I can combine that data with just regular Excel. I can get it just the way I want, all the right colors I want, the right format. Now the key here is how to update this thing. I don't have to go into each cell and update it when I need it updated, right? All I have to do, let me turn that off, is go to my workbook properties when I want to update it and say, hey, I want to update. I've got March, this is actuals through March. I want to now bring in actuals through April. Hit OK. And before I refresh it, let me show you across the bottom a few things. You'll see this is all just through March right now. I don't think there's any dates on that. This is all through March. This is March in the 6 months prior. And then when I hit refresh, I'm going to refresh all sheets. So it's going through all the tabs, not just one of them. Give it 1 second. There we go. As you can see, all my data was now updated. Let me close that, through April. So now I'm showing April through the prior 6 months. So it's that easy to go ahead and update reports once you have them. A lot of times what we're doing is we're taking existing Excel reports that you have, and we're actually just connecting the data from Adaptive into the appropriate cells in your existing reports, and then that data gets sucked in. So there's several different ways you can use the solution from a reporting perspective. Okay, well, it's 4:44, and I've finished everything I have. I certainly appreciate you hanging in there with me. I know I was going a little bit fast. Just as a quick reminder, I hope you choose to take just 15 minutes with us. Say hello, tell us what you thought, let's hear what you're thinking, that sort of thing. And I really appreciate your attendance today, and we look forward to talking with you down the road. Take care, everyone.